The compound on Agbowo Road, Ibadan, had a rhythm of its own. It wasn't the kind created by music or laughter. It was sharper than that. Louder. A rhythm shaped by one woman's voice, a voice so constant that even silence felt like it was waiting for her next outburst. By 5 in the morning, before the first kettle boiled or the first bus honked on the main road, Madam Adoni Adebayo was already awake, in Omo Enian. Her voice sliced through the air. Is this how a house should look by this time of the morning? Tenants shifted in their rooms. Doors stayed shut. Nobody replied. They had learned. Madam Adoni did not ask questions because she wanted answers. She asked questions because she enjoyed the sound of fear responding inside people's chests. She was a widow, not the quiet, sorrowful kind, but the sort that carried her widowhood like a title. Her husband had died 15 years earlier, and since then, she had ruled the compound like a general who never retired from war. People said her mouth had no breaks. People said even her shadow argued. People said if Madam Adoni entered a room, peace politely excused itself. She lived in the biggest flat in the compound with her only son, Connor Adebayo, a civil engineer who left early for work and returned late, grateful for exhaustion because it allowed him to avoid the tension waiting at home. Madam Adoni had one belief that shaped her entire existence: no woman would ever be good enough for her son, and worse still, no woman would ever love him more than she did. When Connor turned 30 and announced his intention to marry, Madam Adoni did not celebrate. She prepared like a soldier preparing for invasion. The first wife, Sod, arrived quietly. She was the kind of woman whose presence softened rooms. Slim, brown-skinned, with gentle eyes and a voice that never rose above politeness. She greeted elders by kneeling fully, palms touching the floor, forehead lowered in respect. The first morning she woke up in the house, she woke up before Madam Adoni. That alone should have been a blessing, but to Mama, it was a challenge. So, Mama said later that day, eyes scanning Sod from head to toe, "You know how to wake up early. Let us see how long it will last." From that day, nothing Sod did was ever enough. If she swept the sitting room, Mama would walk across it deliberately, crushing groundnut shells beneath her slippers. Is this sweeping or design? She would shout if Sod cooked soup. Mama would taste it and click her tongue loudly. Is salt now decoration? Or is it palm oil you're using to bury me alive? Sod always smiled. I'm sorry, Mama. I'll do better. But better was a moving target. When visitors came, Mama became a performer. She laughed loudly, clapped her hands, and told stories that always ended with Sod's humiliation. My former house help cooked better than this one, Mama would announce. In my days, wives respected elders. They didn't answer back or breathe anyhow. Sod would stand behind her, smiling with trembling lips, her hands folded tightly in front of her. Connor noticed nothing. Or perhaps, he noticed and chose peace over truth. Please be patient with Mama, he always said. She's old school. She'll adjust. Mama never adjusted, she escalated. The night everything broke, one evening, Sod returned from work exhausted. Still, she tied her wrapper and went straight to the kitchen. She cooked rice, fried plantain, and served the food neatly. Mama tasted the stew, then she poured water into the plate. You wicked girl. Mama screamed, you want to kill me with oil? If I die, my blood will follow you. Sod froze. Something broke inside her that night, not loudly, but completely. She cried until dawn. By morning, she was gone. She left her wedding ring on the table and a note written in shaky handwriting. Connor, I tried. God knows I did. Connor's heart collapsed. Mama barely blinked. She was never wife material, she said coldly. I'll find you a proper woman. The second wife, 6 months later, Connor married Tola. Tola was everything Sod was not. She spoke clearly, she walked confidently, She did not kneel unless she chose to. From the first greeting, Mama's face hardened. So your knees are allergic to the floor? Mama sneered. Respect is from the heart, Mama, Tola replied calmly. That sentence declared war. Mama locked kitchen cabinets and kept the key in her blouse. Tola bought her own stove and cooked in the corridor. Mama spread rumors that Tola was possessed. Tola confronted her openly. One afternoon, Mama collapsed theatrically, crying about chest pain and witchcraft. Neighbors gathered. Connor rushed home in embarrassment. The next day, Mama packed Tola's bags and dumped them outside. I will not live with a witch, Mama declared. Tola picked up her bags, straightened her shoulders, and looked Mama in the eye. One day, she said quietly, you will meet someone who treats you exactly the way you treat others. Mama laughed, but that laughter did not echo for long. A new fear. Connor was nearly 40 now. Loneliness had started sitting beside him quietly. Mama noticed, and for the first time in her life, fear crept into her heart, not fear of losing control, but fear of being alone. One morning, she made a decision. I will go to the village myself, she announced. I will choose a wife who knows respect. She packed her bag and returned to Okebie, her ancestral village, searching for obedience disguised as humility. She did not know it yet, but somewhere between mud walls and mango trees, Karma was already waiting for her, calm, patient, and smiling softly. When Madame Adoni Adebayo arrived in Okebie village, she did not come like a visitor, she came like a woman on assignment. From the first morning, she announced her mission to anyone who cared to listen. I'm looking for a wife for my son, she said loudly at the market, a respectful girl. Not these city women that argue like men. The women laughed and nodded. Some whispered among themselves. Others studied her carefully. They all knew her type, a woman who mistook control for love, a woman who believed humility was something you forced out of people. After 1 week of asking questions, shaking heads, and rejecting suggestions, someone finally mentioned the name, Mario. She's quiet, the woman said. She doesn't roam. She cooks well. She prays. That was enough. The girl from the mud house, Mario, lived in a small mud house shaded by an old mango tree. When Madame Adoni arrived, Mario's parents rushed to bring out plastic chairs. Mario greeted her by kneeling fully, palms touching the ground. Good afternoon, Ma. You're welcome. Madame Adoni's chest swelled. This one is trained, she thought. During the visit, Mario barely spoke. She answered questions politely, eyes lowered, voice soft. Madame Adoni smiled all the way back to her lodging. God has answered my prayers, she told anyone who would listen. The introduction was quick. The wedding was modest. Within 2 months, Mario packed her small box and followed Madame Adoni back to Ibadan. She entered the compound quietly, and she observed everything. The first weeks, Mario woke up by 4:30 am every morning. She swept the compound before anyone else stirred. She prepared pap and akara for Mama. She washed plates until her fingers wrinkled. Madame Adoni glowed. She bragged endlessly. My new daughter-in-law is gold, she told the neighbors. She wakes before me. She calls me Queen Mother. Connor watched with relief. For the first time in years, his house felt calm. But calm can be deceptive. The shift, it started small. One evening, Connor was not home. Mama called from the sitting room, Mario. Where is my food? Mario replied lazily from the bedroom, I'm coming. 20 minutes passed, Mario. Mama shouted again, what kind of nonsense is this? Mario walked out slowly. Her eyes were cold, her voice was calm. If you're hungry, warm it yourself. Madame Adoni froze. What did you just say? Mario folded her arms. You heard me. Mama's voice shook. So this is how you talk to me. Maria stepped closer, lowering her voice. Let me advise you, Mama. Don't shout at me like the others. I'm not them. Mama's heart thudded. That night, when Connor returned, Maria greeted him with a smile and a kiss. Mama didn't eat, she said softly. She said she wasn't hungry. Connor sighed, she'll adjust. Mama sat quietly, her mouth open but useless, sweetness and poison. The next morning, Maria was sweetness again. She fried plantain, added chilled water, and apologized. I was tired yesterday, Mama. Please forgive me. Madame Adoni was confused. This continued. In front of Connor, Maria was an angel. Behind closed doors, she was ice. Mama, after sweeping, wash the plates too. I'm tired. Mama, don't touch my pot. If you're hungry, cook. If you shout, I'll cry small. You know who your son believes. Madame Adoni began to shrink. She stopped talking, stopped complaining, stopped going out. The woman whose voice once ruled a compound now whispered prayers into her pillow at night. The neighbors warning. Connor noticed the change. His mother sat quietly now. Too quietly. One evening, a neighbor, Auntie Bose, stopped him at the gate. My son, she said carefully, don't be angry. But your wife? Open your eyes. Connor frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated. The way she talks to your mother when you're not around. It's not good. That night, Connor couldn't sleep. And then, he heard it, the truth. Connor arrived home early the next day and waited outside. Maria's voice drifted through the window. If not for me, you'd still be in that your useless village. Madame Adoni's voice followed, broken. Please, my daughter. Connor walked in. Silence fell. His voice was calm. Pack your things. Maria collapsed in tears. But Madame Adoni spoke. No, she said softly, let her talk. For a long moment after Connor spoke, nobody moved. Pack your things. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Maria's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, clutching her wrapper as though it could hold her together. Tears spilled freely now, not the careful ones she used before Connor, but the ugly kind that came from a place too deep to hide. Connor stood still, his chest rising and falling. His eyes were fixed on his mother. Madame Adoni did not look angry, she looked tired. No, she said again, softly but firmly. Let her talk. Connor turned to her, shocked. Mama, let her talk, she repeated. Maria lifted her face slowly. Her eyes were swollen, red, and stripped of pretense. She looked at Connor first, then at Madame Adoni. Her voice shook as she spoke. I didn't come here for love. Connor felt the words like a slap. I heard about this house before I entered it, Maria continued. I heard about Sod. I heard about Tola. I heard how they left crying. People talked. Women talked. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. I was angry for them. I told myself that if life ever placed me near you, Mama, I would show you what you showed others. I wanted you to feel it. Just once. Madame Adoni's breath caught, so I pretended, Maria said. I smiled. I knelt. I became everything you wanted. And when you trusted me, I took control. Connor sat down slowly, his legs suddenly weak. I won't lie, Maria continued. At first, it felt like justice. It felt like balance. But somewhere along the way, bitterness entered me. I became cruel. I became proud. She looked at Connor then, tears streaming, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love with your son. The room was silent except for her sobbing. Madame Adonis stood up slowly. Her knees creaked. Her hands trembled, not with anger, but with memory. I was worse, she said quietly. Everyone looked at her. When I remember the things I said, the things I did, her voice broke. I didn't just hurt those women. I crushed them. She turned to Mario. You were my mirror. Mario sobbed harder, bowing her head. I wanted to teach you a lesson, she whispered. But I lost myself. Madame Adoni walked toward her. Each step felt like walking through years of pride and stubbornness. She reached down and lifted Mario gently to her feet. You succeeded, she said, her voice trembling. You humbled me. I just wish it hadn't taken so much pain. Mario collapsed into her arms. I'm sorry, Mama, she cried. I'm so sorry. Madame Adoni held her tightly. So am I, she whispered. For every woman I ever broke. Connor watched them, tears sliding down his face. He stood and placed a hand on both of them. If Mama can forgive you, he said quietly, who am I not to? Mario fell to her knees again. I promise, she said through tears, I will never raise my voice again. I will make this house a home. Madame Adoni nodded, and I will never use my mouth to destroy again. It was not a dramatic piece, it was fragile, but it was real. The next morning felt different. The house woke up without shouting. Breakfast was already on the table when Madame Adoni came out of her room. Not burnt beans. Not watery stew. Just simple food, made with care. Your food is ready, Mama, Mario said gently. Madame Adoni smiled. A real smile. Thank you, my daughter. Connor joined them, and for the first time in years, they ate together without tension. No competition. No fear. Just quiet conversation and hesitant laughter. Peace moved into the house slowly, like a guest that wasn't sure it would be welcomed. Months passed. Madame Adoni changed. The woman who once terrified the compound now hosted women's fellowship meetings in her living room. She spoke softly, teaching patience she once lacked. This is my daughter, she would say proudly, pointing to Mario. The one God used to save me. Mario would smile shyly. Connor would watch them both, grateful. The house on Agbowo Road became known again, not for shouting, but for calm, and people learned something from that house, that life always returns what we give, that control is not love, that power without kindness destroys everyone, including the one who holds it, but above all, they learned that change is possible, even for the loudest voice, even for the hardest heart.